You want to start?
Yeah, I think so. I
You
think
know, oh,
everybody knows who you are because they signed up and they read your bio, I'm sure. So we'll just let you go
they
ahead and
look at that. I really enjoyed the podcast that you edited. I'm imagining that there's all of these things like me moving my arms uncontrollably and and all of the other things that are just distractions to the whole process. And whether it's clearing my throat or whatever, you did a marvelous job of editing it.
oh,
And
thank you.
it was actually quite pleasurable to watch it. I goes, wow, you sound okay, guy. um, we're going to talk today about something that a lot of people are curious about, and it's this it's this thing that I do called spherical expansion. And normally, not normally, but when I talk about it, what happens is that the story behind it, the backstory to it, is so long that it takes the history of it becomes so great that by the time I get through the whole TLDR of it, people are almost falling asleep. And by the time we get to where we're actually demonstrating it, they're kind of okay, let's give it a try. And like that. And I thought, right, see, I've already got I was already yawning. Um, I thought what would be cool is let's just actually do the spherical expansion so that you can experience what it is, and then I'll fall back and I'll start talking about how did it develop, what kind of things is it good for, what you can do with it, and how it's a mainstay, not just in my work, but in my everyday life, because it's such a powerful piece of work. Oh, what's happening?
You're
Oh,
the spotlight
oh,
now.
I got the main stage.
You do.
And so we're going to do a demonstration of it, and you all get to play. And it is a visualization, it's a breathing and a visualization exercise. And we're just going to do it without me telling you why you're doing it or anything. So it's very simple. We're going to we're going to imagine that we have a ball of energy about the size of a volleyball in our chest. So it would go from the front of our chest to the back of our chest. And we're going to take a breath in. We're all going to do this together. And as we breathe in, we're going to expand the volleyball size of energy until it's as big as the entire room. Long, slow breaths in. And as we breathe out, we're going to shrink the volleyball size ball of energy, and we're going to shrink it to where it's smaller than the original volleyball, like maybe down to the size of a honeydew melon. So we're going to do this until we get acclimated to that size, and then we're going to change both the size that it expands to and the size that it shrinks to. Now, this is going to be it's going to be an expansion of the energy in your chest. So before we do that, I want you to take your finger or fingers and touch it to the sternum and push on it and give it a real good push all over and feel if you have any sensitivity in there at all. And just remember what it feels like. If you have a large amount of sensitivity, a mild amount of sensitivity, or almost none whatsoever, give it a real good push and wiggle your finger around so you can get a feel for it. And then once you have that, now we're going to start the breathing. Very slow with your eyes open. It's important you keep your eyes open. We're going to breathe in, and if you need to, keep a finger on the center of your sternum so you know where the energy is expanding from and where it's contracting to. Okay, Breathe in, expand to the size of the room. And then breathe out and contract down to the size of the honeydew melon. And I'm going to let you do that on your own until we feel that it's comfortable at that stage. And that feels pretty good to me. Now, with our next inhalation and exhalation, we're going to inhale and we're going to expand the size of our sphere until it's 100 feet or 33 meters for you Canadians, 33 meters, about 100 feet or 33 meters out from your room in every direction, up, down, all around. So it's a sphere expanding. So you're going to inhale slowly and expand out to 100 feet from where you are. And on the out breath, you're going to contract it down to the size of a grapefruit. Making it small is just as important as expanding it and making it large. So make sure that you really crunch down on it and squish it down when it gets small. So breathe in, expand out 100 feet. And out down to the size of your grapefruit. Really scrunch it down there. And continue until you feel comfortable with it. You're all to acclimating to it very quickly. Some people take a long time to, excuse me, to acclimate to each level. Some people do it fairly quickly. You're all acclimating fairly quickly. One more breath at that level. With our next breath, we're going to expand out to the size of the city that we're in, or if you're in a town or borough, to the size of your city. No matter how small or how large the city is, expand to the size of your city, your entire sphere. And on the out breath, you're going to contract it down to the size of a navel orange. So expand to the size of the city, contract to the size of an orange. With your next in breath, you are going to expand to the size of the state that you're in or the size of the province that you're in. So I'm in California. I'm going to expand to the size of California. Nelson, you're going to expand to the size of Hawaii, the island you're on. You're going to expand to the size of Saskatchewan. And where are you, Ida?
California, and it's Isla.
California it is then, where your sphere is going to be as big across as California is long.
Where are you in California?
San Jose. And you?
Los Angeles.
Okay, so you're 8-hour drive. Okay. Your state or province on the in breath, long, slow in, expanding. And on the out breath, you're going to contract to the size of a tangerine. Really scrunch it down to that tangerine size. Good. And keep going until you're comfy at this level. Hmm. And for our next level, we're going to expand out to the size of for you and I, Ida, the size of the entire United States. For you, it would be the size of the entire size of Canada. Nelson, why don't you encompass the entire Pacific Ocean because you're a dot in the middle of it and just expand to the size of the whole Pacific Ocean. And on the out breath, we're going to contract to the size of a plum. So your entire country or sea and contract to the size of a plum. Yeah, that feeling pretty good. Now let's join together with each other on the next level. On the next level, we're going to expand until we're the size of the entire planet. And on the out breath, we're going to contract until we're the size of a cherry. Breathe into that one. Okay, and now we're going to get real big. With our next inhalation, we're going to expand to the size of the entire universe. And on the out breath, we're going to contract to the size of a pinpoint. And if it takes you more than one breath to expand that far, take however much breathing that you can. It's long, slow expansion. and long, slow contraction, but make sure you get all the way down to the pinpoint. Visualize your own vision of what the universe looks like and expand that far. Me too, Ida. Nice. Now, everybody has their own vision of how big the universe is, and you expand that far. So, what we're going to do with the next breath is we're going to expand beyond the universe, and you're going to expand your sphere as far as you possibly can beyond the universe. On the out breath, you're going to contract tinier than the pinpoint. Each in breath will take you further into expanded infinity, and each out breath will take you further into contracted infinity. Long, slow, infinite breaths in both directions. How does that feel?
Very relaxing.
Touch the center of your chest and tell me how that feels compared to when you first started. Is it same, better, or worse?
Mine's way better. It really
Better.
hurt when I first started.
This is what I call the epicenter of contraction. When people are in a state where they contract their energy because something's causing them to not want to be okay with being out and connected with life, something scares them, something makes them feel irrelevant, something makes them feel not loved. There's a number of different things. But when we have these things that make us disconnect from the whole of life, we pull in, and this is the place where it connects to it, where it contracts to. So this is the demonstration that usually comes at the end. If I was to measure you on the freedom scale, this would be the way where you are right now would be up about between 970 and 975. And what's going to happen is this is going to shrink back down to where you started with because you didn't use this to really change any of the beliefs that cause you to be in the contracted state. This was just an exercise of going up and down. if you had attached this to any of the beliefs that were actually causing you to be in a contracted state and overcame them, then you would stair step up to a higher level from wherever you were at the beginning. And eventually you would get up into this place, I call it the 990 Club, and you'd feel like this all the time, even more cool than this, because you would be up even higher than this. Would that be a terrible thing?
Probably not.
Being in that mellow of a space like all the time is it's not a bad thing. There's some people that really appreciate the anxiety and all of the hoopla that goes along with being in a freaked out state. I don't particularly care for it. And once people get to where they understand mellow, then they usually choose that. So now I can go back to square one and tell you where this all came from. And if you hit the TLDR point and you just kind of conk out, I understand, but at least you got to experience what this spherical expansion is. And I
Are you okay with people asking questions on the fly, or do you want them to wait?
absolutely.
Okay.
If is there anything that you want to ask so far? Because anytime that something hits and you want clarification or expand it, if you want to tell your own story, please do that, because this is an open meeting here where you can share and ask whatever you like.
Well, I noticed that it's easier to exhale longer than to inhale longer. I was
After a
feeling it.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because each one of the lower levels, it's hard to break through. And that's why we spend quite a bit of time on it. After you've done this a few times, you'll get to where you can go from the lowest level all the way up to the highest level, like in a matter of just a few breaths. It becomes very quick for you. Right now, you're breaking a shell. And like I told you, I call this the epicenter of contraction. And it's if something shocks you or spooks you, you pull your energy in, it goes, it's like instantaneously in. It's like, you know what a sea anemone is?
Hmm.
If you go to a sea anemone and poke it, it just, it instantaneously pulls all of its tentacles in and just becomes like a little monolithic ball. And energetically, you do the same thing. If you were doing that functionally, like in martial arts, where you're doing that thing, they call it a key up, where you're bringing the energy in here and then it expands out through the solar plexus with a, you bring all the energy in, then you exhale it all, and you get the maximum amount of energetic expulsion for key up. And that's just one way of using it. Some people have, it's easier breathing in, some people breathing out, but after you break through the shells, you can do that infinite expansion, and it seems like you can just go on and on forever. And you can contract it and it goes infinitely small. And going from infinity to infinity, it becomes very easy. Now, one of the things that I use it for is that there are people, if you could measure how much food do I actually need to have to eat so that I'm eating exactly the amount of food that my body needs, no more and no less. And you had a number there. You may find this hard to believe, but there's actually people that eat more food than what they really need. I'm being facetious.
Really?
I'm one of the people that can do that. And it depends on what's going on in my world at the time. And for people that do a breathing exercise like this prior to eating, what it does is and you can do it with just, I call it a seven breath count, where you breathe into 4, breathe out 4, then do it to 5 and out 5, 6, 6 and 7. By the time you breathe in 7 and breathe out 7, you're at a very relaxed state. And all of a sudden, the amount of food that you're hungry for is pretty much the amount that you actually need. You actually reduce the stress level that's screaming for food. Now, there are some people, there's maybe about 10, 15% of the people that when they get stressed, they actually eat less food than what they need. But most people, probably the higher percentage, when they feel stressed, they have a tendency of eating more food than what they need. Okay, back to the story. How did this all start? I shared the story on Angela's podcast she did with me. Did you guys look at it? Okay, so Nelson did and you didn't, and forgive me for repeating it, but for the purposes of this here, it began with allergy work. I've been doing allergies since the early 90s, and I had different allergens that were in vials so that the actual allergen wasn't contactable. It was just in a vial. But I gave a vial to a man. He was allergic to something or other. I don't even remember what it was. But when I did, it caused his energy to contract in like this here. And when I took it away, his energy expanded out again. I thought that's interesting. And no matter how many times I did it, it caused him to contract and expand. And I did it with a few different allergens he had, and it did the same thing each time. So then other patients would come in that were getting allergy treatments, and the same thing. I would bring an allergen to them, and they would contract in, take it away, and expand it out. And I was in the process of developing a way of making allergies disappear. And it had to do with breathing. And it was the spherical expansion was developing alongside of needing some kind of a tool to make the allergies quit being acting allergically. I guess that's the right word. And what was clear to me was that the response that people were having to allergies, you could think of it as a physical response, but they weren't touching the allergy. You could also think of it as a chemical response, but they weren't actually touching the allergen, like touching poison oak or touching one of the things that like different fabrics that people are allergic to. Like some people are allergic to wool or polyester or something like that. You weren't actually touching anything. You were just coming in contact with the energy of it. And so I was curious, is there a way that I could make it so that if they were in contact with the energy of it, that they wouldn't respond to it like that? And so that's where the spherical expansion actually began, is by having them holding on to their allergen. And is there a way that I could make it so that it wasn't a problem? And I started doing this breathing. Like if they're holding on to the allergen, it's like they're stuck. They can't get out of there. And it's very much like the first level that we did, where we expanded to the size of our room. Except for some people, it's smaller than that. They're expanding out like maybe an inch, because an inch might be an awful lot. And however small it is, they would start with the smallest level and then scrunch it in and then expand it more. And no matter how small it is, if it's like an inch, if it's the size of the room, but slowly expand it out so that the ability to expand it and contract it was easier. And then we keep expanding the size of the sphere and making it less and expanding it more. And by the time we get out to the size of the expanded universe and the contracted pinpoint, if they're holding the allergen and they're no longer having a response to it, my question was, does that mean that they're no longer allergic to the allergen? Legitimate question. And the answer was their allergy was gone. They were no longer allergic to it. And so that was the first part of it, dealing with the 5 most common allergies: chemical allergies, biological allergies, food allergies, contactant allergies, and chemical allergies. Did I say that twice? And by doing that, all of a sudden, I could get rid of all these different allergies with only a small number of exceptions. And so there were still some of the allergies that wouldn't go away, even though the expansion process was working. And it turned out that it had a lot to do with beliefs. For example, I was sharing my work with a group of people in a seminar, and there was a man and his wife. They had come from Russia, and the wife was allergic to shrimp and shellfish, and she was also allergic to kiwi. And so we did these treatments on the wife for the shrimp and also the kiwi. And the next week they came back for the next class, and the shrimp allergy was totally gone. She could eat allergies, no problem. Not a big deal. Kiwi, not a bit. It didn't help. It didn't do anything for it. And so I was wondering, is there anything associated with kiwi that you would think would be contributing to this here? And she said, I can't think of a thing. But her husband said, don't you remember about 30 years ago, they were in Russia and she had never had a kiwi before, and one of her lady friends gave her a kiwi. And she was with a small group of her lady friends, and she didn't know that you're supposed to peel it, and she just started eating it thinking that you eat the whole thing. And her girlfriends all started laughing at her, and it embarrassed her. And ever since that time, anytime a kiwi gets near her, she gets the heebie-jeebies and has these allergic responses. So I wanted to know, what was it about it that was causing it? She got embarrassed because she did something that, when they laughed at her, it's like, wow, I've never been exposed to this. Am I supposed to know all about it? Come on, give me a break. But that's exactly where she went. And so I came up with a belief scale. This is what you believe. At 0 on the scale, I believe that if I come in contact with something that I don't know about, I should probably just shut up and don't say anything, so people won't realize how stupid and uninformed I am. You just button up about it. 10 on the scale would say, if I come in contact with something that I don't know about, that's a great opportunity to expand my knowledge of things. And so where do you think she measured on that scale? She was right down at the 0, because every time something came up, she would just be real quiet about it, because she basically thought she was stupid. Somewhere along the line, somebody implanted that idea. You're stupid. I can't imagine where that came from. But the treatment was to treat her. She was in total lockstep with the belief that I am stupid and I should stay quiet if things come. And she was actually allergic to an idea that said, whenever I believe that unknown things are a great opportunity to learn more. She was actually allergic to that idea. And if I put it on a paper, When I come in contact with things that I don't know, this is a great opportunity. And I gave her the paper and I measured her using muscle testing. You're all familiar with AK muscle testing. When I tested on her, she went boom. She was absolutely allergic to that idea, that belief. And so her treatment was to treat her for that belief, the belief that said, when I come in contact with things, it's a great opportunity to learn, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, retreat her for the kiwi. So now it was a double treatment, a treatment for the idea and a treatment for the fruit simultaneously. So we gave her the fruit and the idea, and she did the spherical expansion. And it was very difficult, but eventually she got to where she was infinitely large, infinitely small in the presence of these two things, the idea and the kiwi. And the idea was what was driving the whole allergy to the kiwi. Next week she came in, no more problem with kiwi. So that made me realize that the allergies were more than just the chemistry and the foods and the biologicals and the contacts and that it actually included different beliefs that we have. So there are some things that you can treat all by itself. Like my mother was allergic to oranges. We treated her for oranges, no more orange problem. But for me, I had an allergic response to Febreze. We ordered a room to rent at a motel when we went to the LA airport. Anyhow, we got a room there, and I told the guy I need a no smoking room. And when we got there, the room had obviously been smoked in, and they took Febreze and put it on there. And there's the only thing worse than the smell of cigarette smoke in a room is cigarette smoke that's been perfumed with Febreze. And I was really upset. And I went over and I said, we need another room. The guy goes, sorry, that's the only room we got. If you don't want that, you'll have to go somewhere else. And then and I know how to do allergy work. So I tried to make myself non-responsive to the smoking room, and I couldn't make it go away. And so if I can't make the allergy go away, I know that there's some kind of a belief that's driving it. And so what could that belief have possibly been? Well, it didn't take long to come up, to rise to the surface. And it had to do with, I'm Wayne, doggone it. And when I say something has to take place, doggone it, it better take place, and it was all my presumption of my might and how things are. And it's just my own goofy bias about my imagined sense of self-importance. and as that, and I finally got to start laughing at myself because sometimes BS Wayne comes along and tries to feel important and to push things around. And it's just unreasonable. But that's what I did. So I had to treat myself for this nonsensical idea of my importance and how it should rule things and how to engage in give and takes when there's really no other options to take. And so I did that. And within a couple minutes, my eyes and nose were running from being in the room. And within a couple minutes, that all disappeared. And I ended up having just a wonderful night, even though it wasn't in the room that I demanded. So I call that process milieu optimization. If you take your car and you polish it and it's absolutely pristine looking and you're driving it along and all of a sudden some bird drops on your car, you're just because the whole car is just been you simonized it and you made it look awesome, and you're beside yourself that some bird would have the audacity to mess up your car. Well, when you identify enough beliefs in you that are creating contractions in you and you clean them all up so that you're cruising around in the 990 level all the time and you're relaxed, and then but there's always something that can knock you out of your center, knock you out of your high and mighty 990 place. And just like the room with the cigarette smoke, that knocked me out. But there is a process by which you can identify, just like the bird poop falling on your car, you can identify if all of a sudden something causes you to go, you realize there's something going on that you haven't fixed in your life yet. And it gives you an opportunity to fine tune your process. And so you get to ask, you acknowledge something just caused you to contract. And what was it? And when I recognized mine as being it was the cigarette smoke, but it was also what was behind it. It was how I addressed it. For the lady and her kiwi, it was the kiwi that did it directly, but it was the underlying thinking behind it about her feeling stupid about it. And so it gives you sort of a laser focused approach to finding out the hidden driving force behind different things that cause you to energetically contract. Are you okay with all that so far? So,
Yeah, I got a question though, Wayne.
yep, yes, please.
So, like, sometimes when you're in those places where you're contracting, you don't know what's causing it. Like, how do you get to the bottom of that?
Well, it's a process that sometimes it takes more than a couple of minutes. Uh,
Mm,
when I have that happen to me, it usually doesn't take very long, 5, 10 minutes at the most. But not to say that you could also have something that would take a day, a week, whatever, but you put the mind to work of what is it that's behind it, and it'll come to you. You you
right.
you have to address it to the mind. It doesn't usually, if that's what your goal is, to find out what it is that's contracting you, it will come to you.
Right. That
And
whole curiosity. Yeah.
you can test it out and see, is this really it? And you'll get a, nah, that's a good idea, but that's not quite it. And you keep refining it until all of a sudden you zero in on it. And when you get it totally zeroed in, there won't be any mistake about it.
Hmm. Yeah. And do you help people with that? Like, do you help them find that
I do
belief?
the best I can, and most of the time I'm pretty good at helping them do it. But there are times when it just totally stumps the band. I have a lady that I have been working with for almost 20 years. And I have two different ladies I've been working with, for one for 15 years and almost 20 years, and they've become friends. And it's become almost a joke that the stuff that's driving them in these crazy directions, I can't figure it out.
Mm,
And my biggest suspicion is they don't want it to be figured out,
mm, yeah.
because it's like our sessions are almost like dates for them. And if all of a sudden they were fixed and they didn't have that problem, then where would they go after that? Who would they call? And
Mm. And when you were doing this allergy testing, I remember you saying something about, and I don't know if I read this somewhere or if you said this to me, about your sister helping you with the scientific piece of this, like the scientific.
right, okay, that's the next step in the development of the spherical expansion, is the doing the spherical expansion in conjunction with an allergy, or just in conjunction with the body being in a contracted state. As I may or may not have mentioned, I use the thing, I call it a freedom scale. Total freedom is that you're 100% expanded out. 990 would be close to it. And the 975 roughly that you got to is pretty far out. And being totally contracted to nothing would be the zero on the scale. And on a daily average, the average person on the planet's about 212, meaning they're about 80% contracted most of the time. and only about 20% expanded. And that it oscillates and so forth, but that's sort of the average. And by doing the exercise like we did, not connected to an allergy, or by doing the exercise connected to an allergy, I was getting that the chest was relaxing and expanding more. And I wanted to see, um, was this all in my imagination? Or was there some actual empirical evidence that could be shown to support what I was thinking? And that's when I contacted my sister. She's does doctor work in Florida. She's deceased now. And she had a friend that had it's an infrared pictures that you can take of somebody, and it'll actually show the energy, it'll show the heat on them. It's a thermographic, it's a infrared thermography. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And she had a friend that has that is in that business and put a camera on loan to her, and she brought it out. And we had 48 people that we looked at them from below the chin to just below the belly button on their skin. And we could see the camera was up at the ceiling level, and they were laying flat down way down there, and you could see the chest. You could actually see the thing I call the place of contraction, the epicenter of contraction. You could see it because it had real tight whites and reds and oranges and yellows, an indication of the heat. And when we did the expansion over about a 6 to 8 minute period, it would go from the reds and whites and yellows down to blues and greens. And there were 12 colors on the color spectrum, and going from the white down to the lowest blue green was I think about 6 degrees of temperature difference. And so we could easily see 3, 4 degrees of temperature change. So it meant that I wasn't just imagining things, this stuff was really happening, that there were thermographic changes that were taking place in in connection with them doing this breathing technique. And so it wasn't just imaginary stuff. And so bringing it together, um, there are a lot of regular allergies that I did routinely, and then I got to where I did less and less of them because I found out the ones that had to do with belief allergies were a lot, well, they ran a lot deeper into people, and they were a lot more um, severe in how they would affect the people. You could get rid of a orange allergy, and it wouldn't really change your freedom level at all. But if you changed a belief about whether uh, people believe that the world is a dangerous place or whether they believe it's a safe place, just shifting that is a tremendous shift in the overall freedom level. When you look at people's how happy they are, what percent of your day do you spend in a state of happiness, in a state of unhappiness, in a state of anger? And you find different people have different amounts of it, but people there's people that they're angry like 60, 70, 80% of the time. And when you bring that down to like below 5% or even 1%, it dramatically shifts the amount where they are on the freedom scale. Same thing that has to do with control. People that have to be in control all the time, or else it's just a major issue. The number of things that happen in people's daily life that are a challenge to their control is tremendous. They can just watch something on TV and see how something goes. I wouldn't do that. You can just see them tightening up because they imagine superimpose themselves in the situation and imagine how bent out of shape they'd be because I wouldn't do that and I wouldn't let them blah blah blah, and they go on and on about it. It's horrible. And being willing to take a look at where you are on these scales and being willing to make a shift in them, that takes a pretty big person to be willing to do that, to even know that a process exists, and to heaven forbid, be willing to look at the idea that I've had a belief in my mind that's gone on for my entire life, and it's not really serving me, which is code for I've been wrong. If something's not serving, you haven't been doing it in the right way. And being wrong is a flip side of the coin for being bad. And so people don't want to be wrong because it's something, I'm bad. I'm bad if I'm wrong, and I don't want to be wrong, and I'm bad, and I'm not going to change, and you can't make me, I'm not going to do it, and all the rest of that, because their comfort zone is so small. And we have to remember about the comfort zone is that beyond the comfort zone is this place called the zone of discomfort. And it's kind of hard to imagine how big is the zone of discomfort relative to the zone of comfort. That's kind of a tricky question for it,
Oh, I don't know where that's coming from. I'm not sure.
okay, anyhow,
There we go.
that can be a real tricky question for a lot of people, because the comfort zone is the place where we want to be comfortable, and we don't want to know anything about what's beyond it because we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to have our beliefs challenged. We don't want to have our way of being challenged. We don't want to have our way of doing challenged. We don't want to have anything that has to do with the history of ourselves with our family being challenged. We like things the way they are in this nice, cozy little comfort zone, and don't be messing with it. So it's tough to get people doing stuff like this here. That's why I don't measure people anymore. I don't want to upstage them. And it's fine to show what the extremes are in a belief, and you can imagine where you are in it. And that's cool. But being outed in front of a group for that, a creepy place to be. And, you might be totally right about it, but you're not going to who are you doing a favor by revealing that to a group about somebody having a belief system that's not only not working for them, but it's not working for the people around them. And you're not really benefiting them by revealing that to a group. It's nobody's business but theirs. But what can help is to be able to explore different beliefs so that people can see where they are in it. And it's something like what we talked about on the podcast. I like that thing called a slingshot version, where suppose a person may not be down at the total bottom, how a belief might benefit them. They might be maybe a third of the way, but in order to propel themselves to a place where they're going to get the maximum benefit out of a belief, they can imagine that they're in the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst applications of that belief, and then they get to propel themselves forward like a slingshot, and it just drives them into a really cool, neat place. And it's just a fun game to play, and it's anyhow.
I wonder if anybody has, we could just give them a few minutes to ask any questions that they might have, because we've gotten a lot of information here.
That's
People
why I
might be,
wanted you to video this here, because there's
yes.
and like I told you, I can't really work with it. It's difficult for me to work with an actual agenda, because I just kind of go all over the place, and
Mhm.
and there's a lot of information that comes out here, and later on they go, what did he say about, and if you have the video, then you'll know what did he say about whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just as a reminder, um, and I say this over and over to people, this is just my opinion. This has nothing to do with this is right. All this is just these are ideas that I have come to embrace after a long time working with people. And for me, these certain approaches to working with people, they seem to do really well. And so does that mean that they are empirically valid and all the rest of it? The answer to that is, I don't know. All I know is that when we go through certain procedures, they get certain benefits, and it seems to be consistent, the benefits that people get. In 5 years from now, I'm sure that what I'm doing is going to evolve to something even more grand. And this is the latest version of perfection. Because you know what perfection is. You've got it. Ah, absolutely perfect. I've got it. I've got it. And then 5 minutes later, you go, except for this here. I forgot. I got to change this here. So all of a sudden, the 5 minutes ago perfection is given way to this here. And then, of course, 10 minutes later, and on and on and on, that your perception of perfection is always evolving. And to hold you accountable because you had a certain perception of perfection 2 weeks ago and now you're talking another story. I mean, why would I want to do that? Because I understand that perfection is always evolving for everybody, and you should have the freedom to evolve with your perfection. It's your ever changing. There's a whole foundation of beliefs that revolve around a certain principle and idea, and we're so stuck in that principle that they just can't break out of it and allow it to evolve. And it's just perfection's an ever changing. It's the ever changing dance between consciousness and reality. Consciousness is such a fluid thing, and we have all of these strands of conscious awareness, and some of them are really cool ideas, and we want to bring them into a state of reality, of manifested reality. That's great. And we're on it. And then we'll get to a place, oh, nuts, except if I did this, then this would happen, and blah, blah. And so we have almosts, that the consciousness almost made the cut and made it into a state of reality, but something got in the way. And some of them actually come all the way down to being total reality. And it's cool when one does that. Imagine if every conscious awareness became a reality. For every one thing that becomes manifest reality, there's got to be a gazillion consciousness strands that never make the cut. Does that make sense to you?
Well, sort of. Can you give an example? Like, I'm thinking, like, just even the evolution of humans and what we've discovered over time and what scientists have discovered over time. And we have these aha moments and then realize later that, oh, but there's a better way, or, oh, that didn't quite work, or it doesn't work in this circumstance. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and the word I was trying to think of is called a paradigm.
Mm,
We have certain paradigms that we get locked into.
right.
Some of them are just thoughts and ideas that keep evolving from day to day. A new dance step, a new fashion trend, a new whatever. They're just things that are fluidly moving along. And some of them get locked into patterns like Euclid's geometry. Any of you math people?
No.
Any of you ever take geometry? Oh, okay. There was a guy back in the Greek times, uh, 3,000 years ago, something like that, and he had all of these theorems in geometry about triangles, and he had one idea. He said, if you have a point here and a point here, that the shortest distance between those 2 points is a straight line that runs from this point to this point, and that was God's law. That was the rule of thumb. And it turned out to be that it was totally wrong. And it interfered with the advancement of astrophysics for over 2,000 years.
Hmm.
Because there's no such thing as a straight line in our entire universe. Because if you take that line and you extend it far out in both directions, you see that it's part of a curve that goes around the entire universe. And what you're looking at here is just part of an arc, and it's not actually a straight line. It's just from looking at it close, yeah, it looks pretty straight, but if you back up to the size of the universe and look at it, you see that it's a part of the curvature of the arc. Well, anyhow, that was a part of a paradigm that interfered with the growth of people. Same
Mhm.
with religions. Religion paradigms have interfered with the growth of people, and the amount of separation between people because of religion paradigms has been a real drag for the human population.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
problem is some of them are so deeply entrenched, it's a real uphill battle to break out of those paradigms.
Mhm.
But if a belief is valid, it will bear scrutiny. If there's something valid about a belief, it should be able to withstand being examined from every point there is. I told you a
Mhm.
story about my grandmother not drinking water because the people back in the 1800s died from waterborne disease, and so she wouldn't drink water. And even when water became cleansed through the purification systems, she still wouldn't drink it. And she suffered from non-drinking water, and she taught it to her son, my father, and he died from kidney failure because he wouldn't drink water. So I'd say that was one paradigm that was passed down mother to child that didn't really work well for him. But he wouldn't hear about it. He figured all he needed was a thermos of coffee every day and life would be good.
Hmm. Interesting.
So um, that's why I use spherical expansion. It's to it's to I locate beliefs that aren't fully working for the best state of being for a person. And if you can, um, I begin with a panel of beliefs. I've got about 31 of them that are my most popular ones, but that just scratches the surface of a whole lot of other ones. And I was hoping there'd be a bunch of people here because one of the things that I thought would be fun would be if there were enough people interested in it, actually explore through some of the different beliefs so that people could get a sense of where on a belief scale they were. That would be a lot of fun. And by going through a series of beliefs and giving them the opportunity to evaluate for themselves where they are, and if they chose to create a shift so that they shifted into another aspect of the belief that would serve them better, if that would be something they'd be interested in doing. There's just certain people uh, that contact me about that because they realize there's some things about what they believe in that have interfered with them being at their best state of being, and they want to do that. I would say that the number of people that fall into that category are, I won't give a percentage, but I'd say it's a very small percentage of people that have that realization and want to go with that.
Hmm.
And that's why most of my work to date has been one-on-one rather than with groups. I would love to do this for a whole group, but it, um, it's hard to pound the drum and make that all happen. That's something that I've wanted to throw out. And if in your group, your other group, if there's people that would like to do that, to explore different beliefs that they have to see, are they working for you? Like what I told you before, I tell people all beliefs are made up. And if you're going to make up a belief, doggone it, make up one that really works for you. Because why would somebody want to wake up in the morning and go, Now I think I'll do this here because I think it's going to be terrible for me. I mean, it doesn't, most people do what they do because they actually believe that they're doing the thing that's best for them. Why would somebody wake up and want to do a lot of stuff that they think is just a horrible thing for them? Most people actually believe that what they're saying, doing, thinking, and being is actually almost God-given for them. That's what my family always did. Come on. How could it be wrong?
I do have a question.
Yes, I've been waiting for you.
Okay, I'm not the 20th person, but here goes. I believe that we kind of discussed this in our last meeting together.
Yeah.
It's pertaining to politics. And it's something that I'm sure I'm not the only one that, that when you see the news and you see all these things going on and it causes stress, which is normal. Unless if we don't have stress, then we're not alive. But how do you deal with, I mean, what kind of thoughts do you think are grounded in, for example, for myself, when it stresses me when I see the news regarding politics? And what do you do in that case? And my second question is wheat gluten. Have you conquered that one? Because that seems to be something that like a debilitating for those people that are suffering from it.
Most of the time I do, even though it's annoying to me. And I find it disgusting. I find it funny. I find it really a process of opportunity for the people that are involved in it. And like everything else, it's a matter of a desire for power, a desire for relevance. That's what everyone wants, is relevance. And different people have different requirements for feeling relevant. Obviously, for money, but the things that you have available for working on it, somewhere between limited and none. That if you put things on YouTube that are dead accurate responses for things, for example, why do wars go on? Simple answer. What drives the wars? Tell me, what drives the wars?
It's ego. It's if you come
Yeah,
down to the bottom of it, it's ego.
try again. Try again. What's driving the wars?
Drive for power. Yeah, can you hear me? Drive for power.
What
Belief.
else?
It's beliefs. What you
It's
strongly
what?
believe something, you really think it's right.
Well, what else?
Control.
What's the driving force behind every war?
Control.
Control. That's good.
Who is driving the war in say in Israel, and the war in Russia with whatever they are? What's
Great.
driving that?
Power.
What
Control,
else?
power, yeah.
What else? What else? You ever heard the expression "follow the money"?
Yeah, right.
Who
Right.
who
Power and
who
money, sure.
who is the biggest beneficiary in that? Or who are the biggest beneficiaries in that? All right. Well, let's talk about like the gold rushes. Who are the ones that made the most money in the gold rush? The ones that made the shovels and sold the shovels.
Oh, yeah.
They did far better than the people that were out there doing it. They did fine. So using that, who are the people that are doing the best in the wars?
The industry.
And you never hear that on television. And the reason you never hear that on television, because it's totally filtered out. At every highest level, you never hear about the biggest beneficiaries because they don't want their name mentioned. Who's the biggest beneficiaries in the vaccines? The drug makers. And yet it's always the doctors and the poor children and all the rest of that there. But the ones that are behind it, you see at the end, you go, oh, Pfizer, okay, they're the ones that are driving that. They're the ones that want you. And then they get the government to stand up and tell you about how important all the vaccines are. And the wards are the same ones. The true beneficiaries are so filtered out, you never hear about them. So your question is, what do you do about it? And the answer is that you don't really have the power to do anything about it. I don't. And if you want to get up and be vocal about it, say on YouTube, you can put all that stuff you want on, but then you'd ask Angela, hey, did you see my comment? No, I didn't. And it's right here, and you'll read it. She goes, I never saw that on there, because they have a way. If you actually hit where the reality is, they make your comment looks like it's there to you, but nobody else can see it. It's a way of invisibilizing anything that's relevant that you might have to say. So you get to be angry and spout out about it, but there's things on this planet I would love to do something about, but I don't have the power to do it. I'm just one weak person. What I'm talking about, fixing belief systems, that's what we call disruptive technology. Do you understand that term? Why was it disruptive technology? Because it's important that you be afraid all the time. If you're not afraid all the time, then there's people that aren't afraid are more difficult to herd around like sheep. And if you're not one of the, if your motto isn't bah, then you're not much good to this government here. Not as bad in Canada, but it's a weird place over here south of the border. It's important that you be manipulable. So it's a tough place.
Because there's a lot of people
I hope that didn't sound too defeatist to you.
Well, it kind of did, but but I will say
it's the emperor's new clothes.
But I like the question, because there are a lot of people who are very stressed about what's happening in the world right now. And as a stress management technique, I guess, what Nelson's probably, and I won't speak for Nelson, but what Nelson and I are, or what I'm wondering is, what can we do about that? And I think there's
I'm pretty shrug-shouldered about it, because I'm not afraid. Is the world a dangerous place, or is it a safe place? It's a safe place.
It's a belief.
I consider it a safe place, and I consider all the imagined dangers just as funny stuff that they create in order to keep people on the run.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a belief thing.
So the best thing to do is turn the damn TV off. You don't have to be looking at the news all the time, because it has one purpose in mind, and that's to keep you afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not afraid, you're a threat to the man.
Right. Well, and fear, the opposite of fear is love, right? And you can't be in fear if you are in the state of love, is what I've been told, and I truly believe.
I think there's some validity to that.
You change your perspective. So
Yeah.
Nelson added another question about gluten.
Gluten? Gluten's kind of a fad allergy. There's certain things that'll come up, and as people hear about them, all of a sudden you see a lot of people have them. They're kind of fads, and most people I know with gluten allergies, they disappear like really quick as soon as they get to their relevance of why that makes them more relevant to have that particular um, allergy going on.
Cool. Does anybody else have questions?
I just thought of my brother-in-law who's into fad gluten, dairy, and he has ear stuff and this, but he's a comedian, and I would think he would really get off on being open. He's very open to psychological things and spiritual, but I just thought of him to recommend you, Wayne, because I've known him for what, 25 years. It's like, this is ridiculous, Ed. You don't have an allergy. It has to do with belief. I really believe that. So anyway, but I
I
just,
agree with you. I agree
he
with
popped
you.
in my head, like, I'm gonna definitely recommend, because he's open to, feelings and beliefs and all that, but he obviously hasn't been open enough to be curious to explore deeper.
Yeah. And the feelings and behaviors are all subordinate to beliefs.
Like we can do that for years and not really get into.
I know people that are, if they hear that a clown is around, they love it because they love clowns because they believe that clowns are providers of happiness, of mirth. And so that's the belief. And so the behavior is approach. They want to approach them. And the behavior is the approach, and the feelings is the happiness and the joy and so forth. I know other people that are terrified of clowns. And they believe that clowns are sinister monsters that hide behind masks. And the behavior they have as a result is avoidance, and the feelings they have is abject terror. So we have avoidance and terror corresponding with the belief that clowns are monsters hiding behind. And we have another one that says I believe clowns are happy people that spread joy and mirth, and they have an approach and happiness. So you have the emotions and the behaviors that correspond with the belief. Now, if you wanted to take the person who's scared of clowns and shift the belief so that so now all of a sudden they're thinking that they're happy and joy, all of a sudden their behaviors and their emotions would shift also. So shifting the belief back and forth automatically entrains the behaviors and the feelings. And it's like that with every belief. And when you look at the cycle of beliefs, of how beliefs go in a cycle and how you keep proving them to yourself over and over, when you see that, then you see why it is that the beliefs and the behaviors are subordinate to the beliefs that they come from.
So Wayne, we are
That,
at
that might sound a little creepy, but it pretty much.
no, that actually made tons of sense right there to me, anyways. So Wayne, we are at 7:30, and
Yeah, let's call it a day. Let's call it a
and
day.
and I guess maybe share how people can reach you in case they have more questions and they want to ask more questions.
You have my email. My email is drwaynebaird@yahoo.com. I'm pretty easy to contact.
Okay, and I'll send that out with the replay so that people can
Okay.
do that. And we'll talk about what might happen next.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be fun if it did to explore specific beliefs and put it into a time frame where you could actually look at it, because people have belief conflicts that they can't even imagine that are there because
Oh, yeah,
they live inside their comfort zone and they're not acquainted with anything that's outside of it.
absolutely.
And
we-
and the creepy part is it's a part of their family way of being.
Mhm.
It's a part of their spiritual background. It's a part of the community that they live in, and they're so entrenched in it. And the idea of going on the attack after, when it involves things that are the pillars of importance in their life, that's a tough sell.
You?
Unless you decide you're going to take your whole family with you on an outing and, and and actually do this thing where
Well,
you
that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? To take your whole family on that journey.
Well, that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
That's what we do
Yeah.
because people that try and make changes in defiance of where their families are, they end up falling back into orbit really quick.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they go through a greater level of abandonment with their family, and that doesn't feel good.
Right. Yeah.
And you can measure where they are. You just measure on a scale of 10, how much in lockstep are you with your family? And just that quick measurement lets you know how much of a state of abandonment people are in. And it's creepy how much it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that we could keep going because you have,
Yeah, we're not
have a
going
lot
to
to
we're not going to
share.
do that though. And I want to thank all of you, and including these two, the two blackouts
Yeah.
for joining. It's fun sharing. Sorry I wasn't more organized, but that's what I do. It just comes out of me in whatever order seems like the right way to do it at the time.
Yeah. Well, and I always encourage people to take what resonates with them. And, you always take nuggets away and you keep those for yourself. And anything that doesn't resonate, you let it go. And
then you got a video you can play back if you want.
that's right. You can listen to it again. Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't hear that the first time.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Wayne,
you very
for-
much.
Does anybody do the LaCroix besides me?
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, that's LaCroix's good.
I love the tangerine. I buy
Yeah.
cases of it.
I got
It's no sugar, right? It's just all natural stuff.
Yeah, it's just there's just a hint of the tangerine flavor in there. Is
Yeah.
0 calories. It has a little bit of effervescence to it.
Yeah.
I just love it. I've been drinking it for a long time.
Well, enjoy. Thank you so much,
Anyhow,
everyone.
you guys have a great one. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And very nice
Thank you,
to meet
Wayne.
Very nice to meet you, Kevin. It would be fun to have a chat with you sometime. I'd like to. We almost started getting into your process, but we upstaged here.
We'll do that.
Upstaged. Yeah.
This month,
Upstaged by the big stage here.
Yeah.
this month is kind of a crazy month for me as I finish up work, and so hopefully within the next month for sure.
I'll look forward to it. Everybody have a great evening.
You
Have a good one.
too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.